In the movies, the dangers of the unknown can be exciting. But in the real world, you don't need that kind of excitement. You need to be sure of what you're handling and how dangerous it is. To help keep your world safe, the U.S. Department of Transportation, DOT regulations cover the transportation of hazardous materials. This program will help you make sense out of three important elements of the regulations for hazard communication. They are marking, labeling, and placarding hazmat bulk and non-bulk containers. Some requirements in these three areas will overlap, but they'll be worth repeating. A non-bulk package is a container with the capacity of 119 gallons or less of liquid, a net mass of 882 pounds or less, and 119 gallons or less of solid material, a water capacity of 1,000 pounds or less when it will be used for Class II gases. Packaging is considered non-bulk or bulk due to its capacity, not because of the amount of material actually shipped in it. So a 300-gallon container carrying 50 gallons of material is still considered a bulk container. The non-bulk package is marked by the shipping originator, who refers to the hazardous materials table in the regulation. The proper shipping name, technical name in parentheses, and 4-digit UNNA identification number is placed here. This package contains liquid, so the package orientation arrows show which end belongs up. For EPA-regulated hazardous substances, the letters RQ for reportable quantity appear with the proper shipping name. On occasion, shippers receive exemptions, usually to use a container not meeting the current regulation. If the shipment were exempted, DOTE followed by the exemption number would appear here. In a partial load, the name and address of the consignor, the shipper or offerer, or consignee, receiver, is marked on non-bulk packages. But if the entire non-bulk load is sent from one consignor to one consignee, no name and address marking is required. Bulk packaging includes hazardous material which is loaded in transportation vehicles or freight containers with no intermediate form of containment. Some examples are tote bins, tote tanks, large bags, intermodal tanks, tank trucks, and railroad tank cars. For packaging with the capacity of 1,000 gallons or more, the material identification number is placed on each side and end. Bulk packaging under 1,000 gallons is marked on two opposing sides versus one side for non-bulk. For cylinders permanently installed on a tube trailer, the number appears on each side and each vehicle end. Exempted packages are marked DOTE followed by the exemption number. Each bulk packaging marked with the proper shipping name, common name, and identification number must remain marked when it's emptied. The markings may only be removed when the packaging is sufficiently cleaned of residue and purged of vapors to remove any potential hazard, or until it's refilled with the material requiring different markings. Because of the special hazards involved, some materials require additional distinctive marking. The more dangerous the material is, the more detail is required to ensure proper handling and emergency response. If you're dealing with radioactive materials in excess of 110 pounds, you'll find markings showing gross weight and type A or type B as appropriate. Export packages are marked USA. Materials poisonous by inhalation are marked inhalation hazard on two opposing sides. Non-bulk plastic outer packaging, used as single or composite packaging for Division 6.1 materials, must be permanently marked poison within 6 inches of closure. Certain consumer commodities, because of the form in which they are shipped, are classed as ORMD. This packaging, shipped in non-bulk containers, is marked on at least one side or end with the ORMD designation, immediately following or below the proper shipping name. International air regulations treat consumer commodities as Class 9. With some exceptions, Class 1 explosives are marked with the EX number for each substance, article, or device in the package. Or a package may be marked with the material stock number, issued by the Department of Defense, or identifying information required by regulations for commercial explosives. If you see the marine pollutant, white triangle, and fish accompanying the proper shipping name, it means that the name or names in parentheses are the components hazardous to marine environments. For bulk packaging, the placard-size marine pollutant mark is required for shipments aboard any vessel. It must be visible from the direction the package faces. Elevated temperature materials are marked hot on each side and end of a bulk package. If the identification number is used on a placard, the word hot must appear on or near that placard. Portable tanks are marked on two opposing sides with the proper shipping name and identification number and owner-lessee name. If that marking is not visible when the tank is loaded on a transport vehicle or freight container, the marking is placed on the vehicle or the container. Cargo tanks are also marked on each side with proper shipping or common name when required and identification number. If Class 2 materials are contained in the cargo tank, with the exception of certain nurse tanks, markings on each side and each end include the proper shipping or common name for the gas. Quench-tempered QT or non-quench-tempered NQT tanks are marked near the specification plate. Regardless of packaging type, all marking must be durable and printed on or affixed to the surface of a package, label, tag, or sign. The background color must be sharply contrasting and never obscured by labels or attachments. Markings must be placed away from any other marking, such as an advertisement, that could reduce their effectiveness, and markings should never include abbreviations unless authorized. Labels easily identify hazmat and its hazard class on non-bulk and bulk packaging with a capacity of less than 640 cubic feet, with some exceptions provided. Labels are diamond-shaped, at least 3.9 inches on each side, and color-coded by hazard. Hazard class or division numbers appear in the lower corner, and text size is regulated. Each label, whether printed on or attached to a package, must be durable and weather-resistant. That is, the label withstands 30 days of exposure to the elements without a substantial change in color or deterioration. Shipment originators label material according to Column 6 of DOT's Hazardous Materials Table. Anyone who offers hazmat for transportation and consolidates compatible hazmat must label the final container for each hazard class. You should never find a label on the package bottom. They go near the proper shipping name if package dimensions permit. Generally, only one of each required label will appear on a package unless it is a non-bulk package over 64 cubic feet, non-bulk package containing radioactive material, DOT 106 or 110 multi-unit tank car, portable tank of less than 1,000 gallons, freight container or aircraft unit load device between 64 cubic feet and 640 cubic feet in volume. These all require duplicate labels for each hazard class placed on at least two sides or ends. Sometimes package size or shape makes printing or affixing a label on the package impossible. The label is attached to a tag, which is securely fixed to the package. Multiple labels are displayed within 6 inches of one another and must be clearly visible and free of markings or attachments. Finally, certain materials with multiple hazards are labeled for both primary and subsidiary hazards. For example, diane-butylamine requires this primary label as well as this subsidiary label. These labels are required for all hazard classes, with special requirements for Class 1 and 2. Both primary and subsidiary labels bear class numbers. At a glance, you'll know if a material is dangerous, since labels and placards are color-coded and display distinctive graphics. Labels and placards help with hazard communication, and both warn that the material must be treated carefully and in specific ways. Take explosives, for instance. The dark orange background suggests an explosion's violent center. The most highly explosive divisions of this class also bear the exploding graphic, and all show transporters just what type of explosion to expect. Division 1.4 materials present a minor explosive hazard, while Division 1.1 could be expected to explode as a whole load. Moving down the hazard classes to flammables, the background color is a fiery red with flames at the top. A non-flammable gas is green with a cylinder and Division 2 number. Oxygen, which can actually induce burning, is classed Division 2 and labeled bright yellow with the burning O and the number 2. Poison gas, a Class 2 material, requires white background with traditional skull and crossbones. As you move down to flammable solids, or materials which are spontaneously combustible, labels and placards add stripes and half diamonds to draw attention to these possible hazardous reactions. Division 4.3 is dangerous when wet, and the background warning is watery blue with flames. Since the Division 5 materials cause substances to burn that ordinarily would not, their background color is yellow with the burning O. A white background with skull and crossbones marking is used for packing groups 1 and 2 poisons. Packing group 3 materials, which must be stored away from food, bear the PG3 label. You'll know if the material poses a radioactive hazard when you see the distinctive circular symbol on a yellow background with white bottom. Class 8's labels, as well as placards, warn against corrosive hazards such as acids like sulfuric acid or bases like sodium hydroxide, also called caustic soda. These hazards are labeled with the distinctive graphic on dead white and black background. Class 9 covers any regulated materials that do not fall into the other hazard classes, like environmental pollutants and dry ice. This label and placard is black and white striped with class number. ORMD still exists as a separate distinction, but does not require a label. Bulk packaging, freight containers, unit load devices, transport vehicles, and rail cars warn of the hazards inside through placarding on each side and each end. Consigners provide placards to highway carriers, but carriers are responsible for actual placarding and replacement of placards damaged in transit. For rail transportation, consigners apply or affix placards to the car. Placards may be made of plastic, metal, or any other material capable of withstanding 30 days of exposure and must always be 10.8 inches on each side. Reflective or retroreflective materials may be used on a placard if the colors and material are strong and durable. Lastly, a placard that conforms to the International Maritime Dangerous Goods (IMDG) code or the Transportation of Dangerous Goods (TDG) regulations may in some cases be used in place of a DOT placard. If it's your job to placard, you'll need to remember a few rules. Use the mounted holder to affix the placard or use an adhesive-backed placard. Prevent such devices as ladders, pipes, or doors from obscuring placards. Place placards to protect them from dirt splashing up from the wheels. Always place placards at least 3 inches away from markings which would reduce readability. Placards must be visible from the direction they face, each side and end of the vehicle, unless another motor vehicle or rail car coupled to the placarded vehicle would obscure the placard. In cases like this, the placard may be placed on the front of a truck tractor instead of, or in addition to, one placed on the front of the cargo body attached to the truck tractor. Wherever a placard appears, it must be mounted so that the words or identification numbers on the placard are horizontal and read left to right. Some packaging may be placarded on only 2 opposite sides instead of all sides in each end, or labeled instead of placarded. Packages in this category are portable tanks with less than 1,000 gallons of capacity, DOT 106 or 110 multi-unit tank car tanks, and bulk packaging other than portable tanks, cargo tanks, or tank cars with less than 640 cubic feet capacity. To select the correct placard, see the Hazardous Materials Table, Column 3. Poisonous material subject to the Poison Inhalation Hazard Shipping description requires a poison or poison gas placard in addition to the primary placard. Each railcar containing Division 1.1 or 1.2 ammunition, a material that's poisonous by inhalation, must be placarded Explosives 1.1 or Explosives 1.2 and Poison gas or poison. A bulk container with 1,001 pounds or more of gross weight of fissile or low specific activity uranium hexafluoride should be placarded with the corrosive placard in addition to the required radioactive placard. Material with the subsidiary hazard of being dangerous when wet should be placarded accordingly. In some cases, a vehicle carrying non-bulk packages with 2 or more hazard categories, loaded in different locations, may be placarded with the dangerous placard instead of separate hazard placards. For highway transportation, each motor vehicle carrying a controlled quantity of radioactive materials must display the required radioactive placard. To decide which materials require placards, check to see whether the material is listed on Table 1, which means always placard, or if the material is listed on Table 2, you do not need to placard less than 1,001 pounds. When hazardous material residue remains in a tank car, the car must have all primary placards changed to the corresponding residue placards, unless it is cleaned of potentially hazardous residue and purged of vapors, or reloaded with material requiring different placards or no placards. Markings, labels, and placards help keep you safe in the real world. Make sure you know how to read them and use them, and leave the unknown to the movies.